Have you ever revisited something from your childhood and found that it resonates differently now that you're an adult? Like it subtly shatters your heart. Because for me, one of the most heartbreaking moments from the 90s wasn't a breakup or a series finale, it was the moment Aunt Viv was replaced, and no one ever discussed it. As I grow older, I increasingly understand that wasn't merely a change in casting. That was colorism, right there, displayed on our television screen in real time. The Aunt Viv switch, colorism we grew up watching.
The Fresh Prince getting rid of dark-skinned Aunt Viv remains the biggest fumble in black sitcom history. Say her name, Janet Hubert. After they got rid of her, the show lost 37% of its personality. Dark-skinned Aunt Viv is the GOAT of black sitcom. I don't care what nobody say. She brought so much life to the show. After they got rid of her and they replaced her with the light-skinned Aunt Viv, that Aunt Viv was so boring. It's like they didn't even need her. It's like the light-skinned Aunt Viv was just there. She was just there. She wasn't doing that. She wasn't as active as Janet Hubert. Say her name, Janet Hubert. She wasn't as active as Janet Hubert. She wasn't teaching. She wasn't going to that dance class as the oldest person in there and slant. Do you remember that episode when she went to that ballerina and she was dancing and she was the coldest one in there and the oldest? That remains the biggest fumble in black sitcom history.
These two Vivians are not the same person. I don't mean the actor's not the same person. I'm saying the character's not the same person. It's like Daphne Maxwell Reid came on set and they said, don't do anything that Janet Hubert did. In fact, we're going to help you out. We're not going to give you anything to do. The first Aunt Viv was a dancer, but that's because Janet Hubert is a dancer. We got rid of Janet Hubert, so we got to get rid of any Janet Hubert talents. They didn't even ask Daphne if she could dance. This was a time in television where if you got rid of one actor, you wanted to trick people's minds into thinking that other person never even existed. They weren't trying to replace Aunt Viv. They were getting rid of any traces of Janet Hubert. That person that was there first? No, they wasn't. They was never there. You prefer the first Aunt Viv, or some people like to call her the dark-skinned Aunt Viv. That means you actually a fan of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the show. You like her character, you like what she stood for. You even remember when the house looked different in the first season. If you prefer the second Aunt Viv, or some people like to call her the light-skinned Aunt Viv, you a fan of Will Smith.
Christ's love isn't like everybody else's love. It's not like the world's love. The world's love loves you when you do things right or when you do things with them. But as soon as you make a mistake, they take that love away. But what I've experienced with the love of Christ is that it loves first. It loves through wrongdoing. It loves when you shouldn't be loved anymore. It's unconditional. And that's the love that I believe is going to change the world and has changed me.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Micaiah. I'm back and I'm black and I'm back and I'm black and I'm back and I'm black and I'm back and I'm black.
Sasha here. Excuse me? Supermodels do not fly business class. Now, I'm not gonna demand a private jet, but I think Jag could at least spring for first class.
And today I am bringing you all another video diving into the Aunt Viv switcheroo. I know that for some this may not seem like a prevalent issue, but I think this is firsthand of what we've seen with colorism within television, and people are like, oh, they just changed her out. It's a lot deeper than just changing her out. They completely erased Aunt Viv's persona on top of how she looked as well, completely switching her out from a beautiful dark complexion woman to a beautiful lighter complexion woman. This is not to diminish the second Aunt Viv, but the first Aunt Viv just hit different. Just to keep it a buck, it is what it is. She hit different. She was very iconic, and as we know, Will Smith had a lot to do with that, and it was just sad how her character was tarnished, not only on the show but also too with getting other roles.
Okay, I want to talk about Aunt Viv, dark skin Aunt Viv to be specific. Last night, really randomly, I ended up watching that reconciliation between Will Smith and Janet Hubert, the one from the Fresh Prince reunion. And afterwards, I fell down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I just kept watching clip after clip after clip of Janet's Aunt Viv, and suddenly it was 1 a.m. I think it's clear to most people now that what happened to her felt really unfair. But watching those scenes again, it really struck me just how much we lost. There's a moment in the reunion where Will kind of slips up.
Everything was a threat to me.
Why was I a threat?
Not you, the world.
But then if I think about it, right, if I'm 21 years old, I'm Will Smith, I'm thinking about my career, my future, and I'm opposite those performances every week, I might have felt threatened because she was so good. I think Carlton was a great comic foil. I think Jeffrey was fun. I think the two sisters were funny in their own way, one ditzy, one chaotic. And of course, Uncle Phil was that grounded force that the show needed, one of the greatest sitcom dads of all time. But Aunt Viv, Janet's Aunt Viv, she was stealing scenes. Her timing was razor sharp.
Please sit down, we're busy now.
Oh, honey, we're about to get very busy.
She could easily pivot from comedy to sincerity on a dime. She was so physical. She was so electric. Everybody remembers the dance scene, right? But like, what about when she's singing in the shopping mall? Or like all of those quieter and somewhat like emotional moments where she held the entire room still with just her presence. There was something almost like, dare I say it for a second, like quite Eddie Murphy-esque about it. You know, the ease, the range, the charisma, the electricity. I found myself kind of grieving it a little, you know, like what other roles could she have done? You know, what kind of scripts might have been written for her if we'd have seen more of what she was capable of? In what other directions might she have grown if she'd have been given both the space and the stage? And look, I know it was a sitcom in the early 90s, very few stars, you know, made it out of that space. Even Will Smith's career in many ways was kind of a fluke. And so maybe I'm looking back at it with real rose-tinted glasses, but I don't know, nothing about her performance felt ordinary. Not a false note. There's not a minute or a second that I think, she's overstretched here, she's beyond her range. We all know the career Will had, but if you had to ask me who else from that cast could have been propelled into something, you know, maybe not in the same way, but still in a very real way, I'd have said Janet Hubert every time.
Let's take it all the way back to Will's West Philadelphia days, when he was playing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now this is the original Aunt Viv, who was suddenly replaced. But why? That's what Janet Hubert wanted to know, the actress who played Aunt Viv. She had a sit-down interview with Will Smith not that long ago, and she simply asked, I just wanted to know one thing. Why? Why so far? You guys went so far. I lost so much. How do we heal that? And she has always blamed Will Smith for that decision, at least partially. And Will Smith certainly had a lot to say at the time. I can straight up say that Janet Hubert wanted the show to be the Aunt Viv of Bel-Air show, because I know she's going to dog me in the press. Oh, so you know she's going to dog you, so you dog her first. Got it. She's basically gone from $250,000 a year to nothing. She's mad now, but she's been mad all along. She said once, I've been in the business for 10 years and this snotty-nosed punk comes along and gets a show. No matter what to her, I'm just the Antichrist. Wow, bold statement. Now, this was the narrative of what happened. Basically, that Aunt Viv didn't like Will Smith and put up a fuss. And not only did Janet Hubert lose this job, she got the proverbial red letter. She was seen as difficult to work with. But her suffering far surpassed just the typical loss of a job. You see, Janet Hubert was in a relationship at the time of filming the 3rd season. And she was pregnant. She said of her time on set, I was no longer laughing, smiling, or joking because there were things that were going on that nobody knew about. The cast had no idea what was going on. So basically, her bad attitude was because she was being while pregnant. And her contract was an issue as well. During season 3, she was offered this really bad deal. They said you've got 2 months and 2 weeks of work and you cannot work anywhere else. That meant my salary was cut. I had a new baby and a husband who was out of work, so I said no. I did not accept their offer. I was never fired. So the misconception was always put out there. I was trapped. What could I do? So they said, okay, we're going to recast your role. After the show, her life continued to spiral. When I left the show, I had this new baby and no one. Family disowned me. The family said, you've ruined our name. And I wasn't unprofessional on set. I just stopped talking to everybody. Because I didn't know who to trust, because I had been banished. And they said it was you who banished me. Because you were Will, you were a kid, it was hard. So it was like an open secret that Will Smith had a huge part in her being let go, or recast. And Will Smith doesn't deny this. He even says to her, I was 21 years old, everything was a threat to me. That was explaining why he saw her as an adversary. And certainly I think we understand he was 21 years old. But at the same time, she basically just stopped laughing and joking around with him. He didn't like the change. He felt like she was hard to work with. And then she was not only gone, but blacklisted. All because Will Smith, by his own admission, felt threatened by her.
But before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to see more of me. And if you're new, hey, and if you're a returner, I really, truly appreciate the love. If you get the chance, please check out my social media platforms down within the description box and on the screen, where I display my passion for fashion along with other interests that I have that you see on this channel. And for all who are new, you should know I do an array of topics. I am extremely diverse. I do nerdy topics, I do nostalgic topics, and I do more conscious topics. Plus, I dibble and dabble within vlogs. So we do a little bit of everything around here, and you'll most definitely find a place here for you. So join the club. So let's get back into the video. If you were raised watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you already are aware. Aunt Viv was more than just a mom. She was that woman, powerful, intelligent, sophisticated, dark-skinned, unapologetic. She embodied both grace and passion simultaneously. She was a companion for Uncle Phil. She guided Will. She managed the household and still delivered that unforgettable dance moment. She possessed range, and for many of us, particularly young Black girls, she resembled us, or our mothers, or our aunts, or our educators. She felt like home, secure, empowered. Then one day, the next season arrives, and it's like, hold on, who is that? Because Aunt Viv was no longer Aunt Viv. Same name, same role, but entirely different aura, different vibe, different voice, and yes, much lighter complexion. As children, we couldn't quite articulate why it seemed strange, but we sensed it. Something was missing. Now let's be truthful. For years, people have attempted to portray it as, oh, it was merely behind the scenes drama. Oh, it was about contracts. Oh, it was due to creative differences. All right, perhaps. But let's address what no one dares to voice. Because if this was solely about casting, why swap a dark-skinned woman for someone who is noticeably lighter? Why not choose another actress with a similar presence? Why also dilute her personality? Because that's the aspect people overlook. It wasn't just about skin color. They toned her down. The original Aunt Viv was strong, assertive, intellectual, and commanding. The new Aunt Viv, quieter, smaller, less fiery, less threatening, and historically speaking, Hollywood always preferred that, especially regarding Black women. Colorism often operates quietly. Sometimes it's understated. It's about who is chosen as the love interest. It is about who's seen as soft. It is who is deemed as desirable, who gets sidelined, and who is made invisible. And particularly in the 90s, dark-skinned women were seldom portrayed as symbols of elegance, beauty, and authority. There were some cases, but there were a lot of rare occasions where you've seen this. Aunt Viv shattered that stereotype. She just was not a comic relief. She wasn't depicted as struggling. She wasn't a cliche. She was majestic. And then, all of a sudden, she disappears, as if that representation of Black womanhood was too much, too powerful, too dark, too authentic. And I believe that's the reason it pains me so deeply to reflect on the past. Because when we were children, we lacked the words to express it. We simply understood that something was snatched away from us. Representation is significant in subtle ways. You don't truly grasp how essential it was to witness a woman resembling you being honored until she vanishes, and no one provides an explanation for it. But let's acknowledge the flowers that deserve to be given. Janet Hubert, a true icon, a legend, the one and only Aunt Viv. She bestowed upon us strength. She graced us with class. She gifted us with the unforgettable dance scene that will forever occupy space in my mind. And to be honest, no one could ever match that vibrant energy because authenticity is irreplaceable. The switch of Aunt Viv wasn't merely a recast. It was a moment that subtly revealed how colorism functions, even in shows we cherished. And perhaps that's why revisiting the nostalgia of the 90s feels different sometimes, because we're finally uncovering the layers. So I just wanted to unpack this because this was something that I believe is prevalent specifically within the television realm, and it's something that should not be forgotten, and it's something that needs to be addressed so that this doesn't happen in future television shows, because this tends to be a common pattern that we see when it comes to a recasting. The dark complexion woman or the darker characters always switched out with the lighter character. It has happened so many different times. So this is not something we're just seeing and it's just all in our head. It's prevalent, it's here, and it's something that we must address. And I hope down the line that Janet does end up getting roles and opportunities. It's because it's never too late. I do think it's unfortunate that she was blacklisted from the industry, but I do believe that a lot of times those blockings or things that are hindering you can also be blessings as well. So I do hope that other opportunities open up for her, because she was such a prevalent character and she's so memorable. And whenever you hear people talking about Aunt Viv, majority of the time they're talking about her, and that's what I love, because she really had such an impact and she was such like great representation for dark complexion women on our screen. And if you know me, you know I'm big on that. I love the proper representation for us on the screen, and to see her live in the flesh was just beautiful. So I thank you all for watching. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Leave your thoughts and perspectives on the matter. I am open to all perspectives, but we must be respectful down within the comment section. And I want you all to remember that you are loved by the God who created the universe. He made you for such a special purpose. There is no mistake about you. So let your light shine bright, and I can't wait to check you all out soon in the next video. Stay blessed, everyone.